I'm ready to jump right into it. The Stanley Cup Finals, the Oilers versus the Panthers. Oilers beating the Stars in 6. Panthers beating the Rangers in 6. Are we surprised? Are we not surprised? I feel like any one of those 4 teams that would have advanced, you could have been like, yeah, I'm not surprised.
I'm happy the Panthers made it for Anthony's stupid theory of this Rangers 94 2024 bullshit. I am so happy it did not happen to hear from him. But beyond that, I want Florida to make it because I love Barkov. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows he's one of my favorite centers.
He's the perfect centerman. He's
Absolutely. I dreamt of him being on Montreal, and I want Florida to win. And I do predict that they will win. I think
Okay.
they bring more of that playoff type hockey to me than Oilers do. I think Oilers in the last series that were very bad 5-on-5. I think they got better goaltending for sure. They got better goaltending that series, not overall. But Edmonton was relying a lot on special teams, and I was talking to Chris about it. Penalty kills have been great. Power play has been great. But to me, I know it's brought them all the way to the final. But when you face a team like Florida that's good on all 3 fronts and is definitely more physical, I think unless they change their game, Edmonton, I think it will be too much. I think Florida's going to take it.
That's why, like you just said now, the physical aspect of the game, I would have preferred Dallas being the opponent of Florida because Dallas is pretty aggressive too.
Dallas is very great, but man,
it would have been a matchup and a half, man.
It seemed like they just ran out of juice.
Yeah,
you know why?
Maybe there was injuries that,
Edmonton.
But I also think like God bless Joe Pavelski, who might call it a career.
Yeah,
like he's in great shape, but he's old. Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, they're older guys with especially Seguin with injury issues. He's old. Dandanov is not young. You know, Wyatt Johnson was kind of missing. Jason Robertson is awesome. Logan Stankoven just proved that you could be a small player and still, excel in the playoffs. Like that kid's amazing. And I felt like Miro Heiskanen in the series against the Stars.
Caulfield has hope.
Yeah, I feel like Miro Heiskanen was alone. Like Ryan Suter's not the same Ryan Suter like he was in Minnesota.
He never got off the ice. Miro Heiskanen.
Pardon me?
Never got off the ice.
No, I know he was a beast, but he was all alone on defense.
Yeah, he was. They were, like you said, Sam. They were out of gas, and I think that comes from previous series. I think from Vegas and Colorado compared to what Edmonton played. Like Edmonton played Vancouver, which to me is all teams are physical when you get to that point. But they're not like playing Colorado and Vegas. And who was their first round opponent? I think Edmonton was LA. And LA is good team, but they're not there.
No.
So I thought Edmonton had it a little easier, and they definitely had more energy in that series. I think Dallas was worn down, but man, when you come up against Florida, they will wear you down.
I owe Stuart Skinner an apology though, because I thought he was just gonna fucking crumble.
Yeah, same, but he stepped up that series. He's got to do it again, but he definitely stepped up.
I really didn't think Jake Oettinger was going to get outplayed by Skinner. I really, really did. And not that Oettinger was terrible either. Like,
I just think Sam. I just think the penalties and all. I think that just costed them more tthan it being Oettinger. I think it was more of a team thing rather than
McDavid was. You know what? In my opinion, and then I want to hear what Chris has to say too, or everybody else. But Game 4, when the Stars started off the game with an early 2-0 lead, like it was not even. I think it was like 5 minutes into the first. I think everyone thought that might be the end of the Oilers, but for some reason, the Oilers just kept their cool. And I think Dallas maybe let go of the gas pedal where they should have kept going, and that just opened the floodgates for the Oilers to come back, win it 4-2. And after that, it looks like the Oilers never looked back after that. I think that's the game where Dallas really, really let it slip.
It was a turning point for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Edmonton's top guys are getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something special going on in Edmonton. Do I see them beating Florida? I can't. I will stick to it. I know it's kind of a split decision between our group in itself. I hope that Edmonton wins, but I just don't see how they get past Florida. Like, Florida, to me, the only thing that I can say is Florida seems like the younger version of Dallas, and Edmonton technically got through them. Like I think I'll be honest, Ottinger I think is comparable to Bobrovsky. His goaltending was comparable to Bobrovsky's playoff run to date. If Edmonton gets through, it's because they're going to get outshot. Stuart Skinner's going to stand on his head. The puck is going to go the other way, and McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, or the few supporting players are going to pot goals on the counterattack. But other than that, I think Florida in 6.
But again, is the issue of the Oilers being a bit still too top heavy what could lead to their downfall? I think Florida has better depth all around.
They do,
They do have better depth all around, but it's also like we're talking about. I think it's fair to say, put Gretzky's stats aside for the standing goaltender era. I think Connor McDavid is the best offensive player to ever play the game, hands down. He makes look. We talked about Heiskanen. The fucking goal that he scored in Game 6 to put a top shot. He walked Heiskanen as though he was a kid.
Yeah,
as though he's
unreal.
Pretty young, but he walked him as though
Unreal.
he was nothing. The guy's an all-star defender, and he made him look foolish. Like that's who you're dealing with. This guy can single-handedly change the outcome of the game. And you think about it, this guy has to win 4 more games. Is it impossible? No. Like the Oilers went through a lot of adversity this year. I remember when they lost to the Sharks, you had Ryan Whitney of the Spinning Chicklets podcast dropping off the bandwagon, and they turned it around. They completely turned.
They fired their coach.
Their season
when they got Knobloch as their coach. It changed everything.
Yeah. So look, I don't know what logic would indicate Florida and earlier rather than later, like in a certain sense, 6 games. I think that's fair. I don't want to say the Oilers are not good enough to keep up with them, but I just think Florida is so well built. But you do have the ultimate game changer.
Well, you have 2 of them in
on
my
Edmonton.
opinion. You have two
of them, but you have the absolute tip top, like changes the outcome of a game in a second.
Yeah. Yeah, Florida won't be able to play man-on-man coverage.
No,
it's got to be a 5-man unit defense. It's got to be a 5-man defensive unit.
But they'll be smart about it. And I think you're right, Sam. I think the depth, and to me, I keep saying it, the 5v5 play. I think that's what's going to get to Edmonton, really. And Chris brought up. I was going to mention this anyways, but Chris brought up about going for Edmonton. You guys see the commercial about rooting for the Canadian team?
Yeah.
What's your whole debate on this? Because I'm the opposite.
Well,
I went with Mark Dumont, one of the Habs writer on X. He mentioned us saying, "Look, I can't go for Canadian teams. It's like going for a rival." I'm the same way.
It's well, he used to write for the Canadians.
Well, he was for Montreal Hockey now. Yeah,
that's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I can't go for rivals, man. I'm sorry.
It's so I think. Because first of all, the major question is: are the Edmonton Oilers Canada's team? So,
no,
maybe not to us, Habs fans, diehard Habs fans.
They are Canada's team now in the playoffs. Fuck.
No, but they mean ultimately, like Leafs fans will say yes, it's theirs. Habs fans might say yes, theirs.
I would give it more to the Leafs than Edmonton.
Dude,
come on,
but it's
Edmonton done?
Sam.
No,
it's messed up because if you take, let's say, Vancouver Canucks fans, you take obviously Calgary Flames fans, they're going to say anybody but the Oilers type of thing. You take Toronto, who's just bitter about anybody else. But then you have, that's funny because if you take the East and you look at us, I would say fuck anybody but Toronto, anybody but Ottawa, if the case would come up. And there's the neutral ground of Winnipeg, halfway in between, where people are like, yeah, they're cool, they're all right, I don't mind them. But I have no problem rooting for Edmonton, but if somebody here were to say, I'm supporting the Leafs to the last Canadian team, I would be the first to insist on physical violence against that individual.
I'd punch him.
It's a joke.
I know I'd punch a lead, but no.
No,
Okay.
to me it's a rival.
I'm
Canadian
pretty
is a
sure,
rival.
though,
I want Montreal to be the last team to win it and the next team to win it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Goes
I'm pretty sure that if we actually get the data on this, I'm pretty sure that there's more Canadian. That the Habs have the most fans in Canada.
They do.
In
They're-
all of Canada. In
they're
Toronto,
Not just
you have
Canada. I think it's the
when I
world,
lived in
too.
Toronto, I
They're
had so
huge
many
out west.
fucking Hab fans around me.
They're huge out west. Like when
Ottawa is all Habs.
our uncle Joe, Chris and my uncle Joe, when he would, I think I don't know if it's with his time during the military in the 80s and the 90s, but like he went to like Calgary games out in Calgary, and he said he probably easily 60% of the attendance were Montreal Canadiens fans.
You see when the
And
Habs
then-
play the Flames, bro, the fucking fans, there's a lot of Habs jerseys.
Packed. It's
That's what
packed
I'm
in
saying. So how
No,
can anybody
it's
even
packed-
question the fact that the Habs are not Canada's team?
But-
They're called the Canadians, for fuck's sake.
but also true, the Canadiens with
Whatever.
the accent,
Same
whatever.
shit.
It's very true, but it's also due to all those years of winning. They got to
course.
start getting back into those winning ways. Like I'm not going to go as far as saying winning the cup as much as we want them to, but they got to start showing that no, like every year they're contenders. They might get there. That's like when they get there, I really think, and I'm trying not to be as biased as possible. I'm trying to be neutral here, but I really think I don't know if COVID fucking ruined the opportunity to really see Habs fans across the country root for this team, because you couldn't go out to bars and you couldn't go out to pubs and you couldn't go out to restaurants and you couldn't fill up the fucking Bell Center with fans. I really think if times were normal when the Canadians were in the finals, I think you would see TVs across the nation being filled with Habs fans at bars and pubs rooting for the Canadians to win the cup against the Lightning. I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They have the most fans in the world. I'm pretty sure for Canada. So
Yeah.
you would definitely see it.
So my whole point of this, like I'm with Joey that I want the Canadians to be the first Canadian team to break that curse since 1993. But Chris said something that is true. You want to see the great ones win. We wanted to see Crosby win.
Barkov's great.
Sorry?
Barkov is great. So there's a great one.
I don't disagree with you. Barkov is great. Matthew Tkachuk is great. I always liked Aaron Ekblad. He's great. Sergei Bobrovsky is great. But for fuck's sakes, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, they're a notch above all the names. But like, man, how many of us wanted to see Ovechkin win the cup? At some point in time, we all thought he was never going to win it. And now, like recently, we all thought Connor McDavid was never going to win it. And now he's got a chance. He's literally 4 wins away. So I'll speak for myself here. I want Florida to win because they never won ever a Stanley Cup. They came close last year. They lost. They came close in 96,
right?
Against Colorado. I mean, and hey, think about it. Like the fucking 3 Stanley Cup Finals in like 20, not so bad. But anyways, my point is this: like, I want to see them win. I love the way the team is built. I think they're the most perfectly built team within the last 2-3 seasons. Ever since they got Matthew Tkachuk, it just changed fucking everything. But if Edmonton does win, I will be extremely happy for McDavid and Draisaitl. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
mean,
will say that. Listen
I will
to
be
this.
pissed, but
It's fine. You're allowed. Listen to this. The 2014 NHL entry draft. Can you guys name me the top 4 picks
yeah.
of the
Ekblad, Reinhardt, then it was Draisaitl,
Draisaitl,
and then
Bennett.
it was Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
And Florida
How the fuck does that happen? The top 4 picks in 2014 are in 10 years later. They're in the
Playing the
Stanley
final.
Cup. So I know I've mentioned this many times in one of the hockey books I read, Draft Day, they said majority of the teams that went to the Cup Finals and won had at least 10 players they drafted. Did you see on Twitter what the NHL page posted about Florida, how they built their team? Like there's only 3 guys or 4 that they actually drafted that are in the lineup. Ekblad, Barkov. I think Lundell is another Lundell or I keep confusing his name. Lindell, and I'll just get the last one. I should have had it open up here. But anyways, there's only 4. The rest: Sam Bennett, Kachuk, Verhage, Bobrovsky, acquired through trade and free agency.
Reinhardt.
Dude.
There's no footprint, dude. In my opinion, there's no blueprint, of how to really build a team.
Because it always changes.
It changes, exactly. So I would hate to be a GM. That's all I'm saying.
It's constant.
Because I could have a vision, but that vision tomorrow morning might be fucking bullshit. So
because it constantly
insane, man. Insane.
People, I think people forget that, or not that they're not aware, but they seem to forget like things change and evolve, and the way games are being played and the way success happens, it's not always the same. It isn't always the same recipe. What happened in like the mid 2010s, and I'll refer to the Canadians, when the Canadians tried to go bigger, more physical, wouldn't have been the same as today, where it's going quicker. When, Bergevin had all the small, quick players, everyone's like, well, they need to get bigger, and they used to get King, Ott, all those guys.
And he drafted McCarron, Tenorti.
Yeah, and that was at one point in the game, and then the game changes. The game becomes, not only do you have to be physical, not even big, you have to be more physical, but you have to be fast. So the game constantly changes. Some teams win. Look, if Edmonton wins, they're going to win based off of the roster they built through the draft. Because I don't know if it's most of their players, but they're important players are all drafted.
Let's name them. McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, Evan Bouchard,
Darnell Nurse.
Darnell Nurse.
Bouchard was
Skinner.
He was 5th overall. Bouchard.
He was a top 10. He was a top 10 pick. Ryan Nugent Hopkins. They traded for
Broberg. Is Broberg not one of their? No, was it Broberg?
Good question. But anyways, all that to say is, I think they didn't draft, but they signed Desharnais. I believe, because he was a free agent. But
their core was mainly drafted, whereas Florida, I know you have Barkov and who else? Lindell, and you mentioned one more important piece.
Ekblad. That's it.
That's 2. But the rest of the roster is mostly built via trade and free agency.
I also think head coach Paul Maurice changes everything.
For sure. And the GM, Bill Zito. Remember, guys, Bill Zito is the guy I referred to when Kent Hughes was hired, because Bill Zito was an ex-agent.
He was an agent. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
right on schedule.
We're right on schedule. Exactly. I mean, like,
we're just missing Barkov.
We traded for a third. We traded for a third overall pick in Kirby Doc. We have Juraj Slavkovsky, who's a first overall. Ryan Backer, 5th overall. Whoever we're going to pick 5th overall this year. Caulfield at 15. Newhook at 16. Suzuki at 14, I believe, or was that 13? Anyways,
14.
I'm just saying. The Newhook. I mentioned Newhook at 16. We're kind of on the right. The goalie. Yeah, I'm just talking about the forwards here. I'm just talking about the forwards.
They need to keep adding. They need to keep doing it. They need to keep going.
That you said, because that's that's a point of discussion that we've never brought up. How many guys, when it's going to be more competitive, how many of those guys are actually first round picks? And there are a lot of them. What you just listed off, there are a lot of guys who are first round picks. It's not like third round picks as a support.
No, Chris,
we're going to end up having a lot of first rounders on our team.
Our top 6. And I'm including whoever they're going to draft this year. And if you add in Alex Newhook, our top 6 are all first-round picks.
For sure. Yeah. But that's what it is.
That's got to mean something.
Even if we continue down the line, I don't think we're going to get much further than the second round. You have like Owen Beck, Lane Hudson somehow as a second-rounder. Fucking somehow. But other than that, Mayu, Gouli, I don't know if Mike Matheson will be around, but it's just like you said that, and I'm like, holy shit, there are a lot of first rounders. A lot of competitive teams have these third rounders and fourth rounders as support players. Like, we have a lot of skill, a lot of top end high picks that are going to be on the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh,
when it's
even
gonna
if
be time
Philip
to be
Machar,
competitive.
if Philip Machar cracks the lineup, he's a first round pick.
I love that
Yeah.
kid, man. I hope he. I
So
hope he
imagine
cracks the lineup.
we have a first line guy who's playing on a third line just because of the depth that we could
Good.
potentially have.
Good. What
Which
the
is
hell is wrong
essentially
with
what
that?
Florida did, whether they traded or
Dude,
drafted. Florida with Barkov, Kachuk,
Yeah, but
Bennett, Reinhardt, Ekblad. These are all first rounders that
Dude,
they have.
Sam, how the fuck did Calgary like shit the bed when they had a Sam Bennett, they had a Matthew Kachuk, they had Lindholm, they had Johnny Gaudreau, and
They had a
unfortunately,
team
and
at one
unfortunately,
point, man.
But Sam, they had a good year with most of them, and then the next year they didn't have a good year, and they just said
they didn't
screw it,
have a
and they got rid
fucking
of.
goal because they never had a goalie. They didn't like Riddick was their best goalie at that time. When poor Dougie Hamilton he couldn't do anything. Him and Giordano, they tried to fucking lead the way.
Well, let's not get it. Let's not get into the topic of kissing Marty St. Louis' ass. But you also had Sutter as a coach, and that's why I'm sorry to say, but these dinosaurs, they're not fit to coach some of these younger
I
players.
agree.
I don't think they're getting through
The
to
new
them
wave,
anymore.
the new wave style of hockey.
Besides Paul Maurice.
But Paul Maurice has been around for years, dude. Like,
But
remember when he was coaching the Leafs?
Okay, but let's be honest here. John Tortorella is old school, but he can coach. He can coach the modern day. Paul Maurice can coach the modern day.
Yeah,
But if you were to
there's some that
start
can do
naming
it.
names like Ken Hitchcock, like a Jacques Lemaire style, Jacques Martin, like these guys are not fit to be NHL head coaches anymore.
I still think they could make great assistant coaches.
It's
Yes,
possible. Yeah, it's
assistant
possible.
coaches, but not the voice towards the players,
Gotcha.
not the
But
primary
some-
guy who's pulling the strings.
Before you go on, Sam, he mentioned Tortorella and Maurice. Like, I mean, they were on some teams where people thought, no, they're over the hill. Those type of coaches. It obviously depends the team too. Like, look at Tortorella. Like, he kind of rejuvenated a bit his career this year by coaching Philadelphia.
He had to learn.
Philadelphia wasn't a team that's supposed to battle for playoffs, and they were there the whole way. Like, that's tremendous. And same with Paul Maurice. He was with Winnipeg. They couldn't get much done. And I always said, no, it's the team. And it still is the team. Look at Paul Maurice now in Florida. He's in the final.
Can I say one thing, Joey? One thing, or to the whole group at the same time. John Tortorella, he was perfect. He was very good with the New York Rangers, but I think there are perfect matches in life, and the Philadelphia Flyers and John Tortorella are just like that perfect fit. I find it's just the city, the atmosphere, the mentality, the toughness. They're made for each other.
The Rangers got intimidated by Sam Bennett in these playoffs.
Yeah.
The Rangers got intimidated by Sam Bennett big time. He was in Kreider's face, and he moved Kreider with hits. Nobody can do that. Chris motherfucking Kreider. I don't want to get into it, but
so good, that guy.
Yeah, I had to say it.
But look, let's be honest. He destroyed Carolina. When the Rangers beat the Carolina Hurricanes, a lot of it was because of Chris Kreider. He was a fucking thorn in their side. He went nowhere against
That's
the Panthers.
who Anderson should be like, for fuck's sakes.
Hey,
well,
exactly.
Like, dude, if Sam Bennett gets in the face of Hyman or Kane or even Draisaitl, I don't think he's fast enough to get to McDavid's face. Dude, Sam Bennett has one job, and it's to fucking intimidate the shit out of the top 6 Oilers players. And
you gotta watch it though, Florida, because if they get on the penalty kill, they're fucked. That's what you want to try to stay away. Stay away from the dirtiness.
Their penalty kill's pretty good too, though, Florida.
It's good, yeah. I get what Zook's point with
Edmonton's
power play being great. Yeah,
absolutely. Zook is right. Like, you don't want to give the Oilers power play. Like,
no, because you don't know how the refs are going to be calling the last round. So,
no.
Oh my God, there's a huge debate though. It's like, are they gonna let slashes go on McDavid, or are they gonna fucking call them, or majority of them?
They should be calling them. I always say, things shouldn't change, and that should be one thing. But it's playoffs, so they always let a lot go.
I just also on. I think we're also underestimating that they have even Evan Bouchard on defense, though, the Oilers.
Yeah, no,
he's like the best defenseman going into these playoffs.
Yeah, no, he for sure. He had a tremendous year, and his contribution from the point has been outstanding. If there's anything Edmonton should do is they should look to see how Lafreniere played against Florida. That's the
He
only
was
guy.
amazing.
That's
The
the only
Rangers-
guy I could say that really troubled Florida
absolutely.
a lot. Was Zook's favorite player is
Absolutely.
Lafreniere.
Dude, he proved his worth. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
not even apologizing. Alexis Lafreniere, this is what the Rangers had to do with him last year in the playoffs, but they
Absolutely.
couldn't because of Tarasenko and Patrick Kane in the lineup taking over the top six. You put Lafreniere in the top six role in these playoffs, and he kept getting better and better as they kept going. Like, that's the only reason why he was they had a shot, the Rangers, because Lafreniere and Shesterkin in net.
Yeah,
That's
those are the only two guys that showed up and played. It's too bad, Sammy. You know what? When I saw Lafreniere played, I thought of that episode where we beat the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh my God.
What it could have been.
Well,
What it could have been.
I look, part of me is still I don't know. I really don't. We'll never know unless he gets traded here somehow. But like even at that, we'll never know what how that could have played out for Lafreniere being the first overall pick as a French Canadian for the Montreal Canadiens.
Montreal, it's probably a lot of pressure, but I'm glad at least he's stepping up. And
Yeah,
and doing more,
absolutely.
You don't want those guys to be
The Rangers too were probably plagued with injuries though.
Yeah,
Like
for sure. Everyone is injured at a certain point at this time in hockey. It's how it is.
But I don't know if there's that many injuries going on with the Oilers or the Panthers.
Oh, I just meant they probably have like no one's not nobody, but most of the team is not 100%.
Zibanejad did nothing.
No, he didn't.
Adam Fox did nothing in that series. Like the Panarin a little bit,
No, you never know what they could be going through. Sam, to me, I personally think a lot of them always have something at least towards the end. It's so physical hockey, play so many games.
Okay, guys, let's do our predictions now. Who's winning the cup and in how many games?
Florida in 6.
Florida
in 6. Florida in.
I want Florida to win it at home. That's the problem, and to me, that's 5 or 7. It's right. Yeah, they're home, right? Yes, they're home.
Yeah, more points. Yes. No. Yes.
Yeah, they're home.
5 or 7. Okay, Chris.
I'll think of 5
for
or
showmanship. For I said Florida in 6, but fuck it. Game 7 overtime. It's never happened in the history of the league. Game 7 overtime Edmonton.
Oh, stop!
Fuck it, let's do it.
I'll go Game 7 Florida.
We haven't
stop your show.
We haven't gotten Anthony's predictions, but Adri says Edmonton in 6.
Well, Anthony already predicted the Rangers.
Yeah, so he's out. Don't even count.
I had the Edmonton
Florida in
Oilers
7
the finals from my original bracket.
And he had the Florida Panthers in the finals. So
It's true.
I had Edmonton winning the cup in my original bracket. So fingers crossed.
Oh, go on.
I don't know. I like I said, I've mentioned before, I want Florida to win. I think they're gonna do it in 7.
Okay.
I think
Me and
Florida
Sam
in
are on the
7.
same team.
I don't think it's gonna be overtime. Who's gonna take the Conn Smythe? That's my
It's hard. It depends the series, right? Like what happens
for Florida. If Florida wins, it's Bobrovsky.
You think?
Yeah, I would say he'd have to be that. He'd have to be on his head, not on his head, but
yeah, but he's going to have to stand on his head in order for them to win. And if he does, if Florida wins it, he's winning the cup. He's winning the Conn Smythe.
And if it's Edmonton,
I think
it could be Hyman, Bouchard, or McDavid. It'll be one of those three.
I'd say either McDavid or Bouchard.
No, Chris, did you say Hyman?
I said
Zach
Hyman.
Hyman is a few goals away from tying the NHL record.
I don't care.
Goals in a playoff.
For a
Wait,
guy
is it
that
25 already?
I'm Chris, you're right. He might win it, but I look at like overall play for a guy that literally just sits backdoor in the blue fucking crease and just puts the puck home. It's valuable, yes, but not to win a Conn Smythe. I'm sorry. I will never. He could score 1 million goals, but the fact that he scores it literally always in that blue paint and that's all he does. I look at overall play. To influence. I can't. I would never.
I'm with Joey on this.
It would only be because of the record. It would only be because I'm full agreement. It would be Bouchard or McDavid, but I'm just saying he's close to tying or overtaking 100-year, or not 100-year, but yeah, nearly 100-year.
You're right,
record,
but I would be pissed
insane.
if it's Zach Hyman. And you know me, I'll be the first to go for stats, for analytics, for everything. This is one thing is like, okay, watch the game rather than what he does, because he does nothing but score in that blue crease. So to me, it should never go to him.